Chosen one, waiting is not neutral. Stop, let that land. Because somewhere between who you are right now and who you know you are supposed to be, there is a space. Most people call that space waiting. But what if it has never been a waiting room? What if it has always been a threshold, and the only thing standing between you and what is on the other side is a decision you have been circling without ever quite landing? There is a tension you have been carrying, not just today, for a while now. It lives somewhere between your chest and your throat, and it does not fully leave. Some days it is louder. Some days you manage to quiet it down. But it is always there, pressing against the inside of your life, asking a question you have been answering with later, not yet, when I am more ready. That feeling is not anxiety, chosen one. That is a call, and God said something today. He said, every second you wait on this is a second you cannot get back, not delayed, not paused, gone. And the moment I understood what that actually meant, not as a vague warning, but as a specific, biological, spiritual reality happening inside you right now, everything shifted for me, and it will shift for you too. This is not pressure. This is not fear being used against you. This is the voice of someone who loves you deeply, who sees what is waiting on the other side of your next step, and who wants you there more than you currently want it for yourself. You were not brought to this message by accident, not today, not carrying what you are carrying. Something was at work, arranging this moment. And the only real question left is whether you will let today count for something. I am going to show you exactly what every second of waiting is costing you. 3 layers, each one deeper than the last. And when the third one lands, you will not need more convincing. You will not be waiting for another sign. You will simply move. Stay with me, chosen one. Because what follows does not just inspire you, it activates you. Before I go any further, let me tell you what is coming in this message, because you need to know why it matters to stay until the end. By the time we finish, you are going to understand the specific science behind why your brain has been locked in a waiting pattern and what can actually break that from the inside out. You are going to receive identity declarations that belong to you and no one else. And I am going to give you a framework for making the one decision that sets everything else in motion. All of that is coming, but it only works if you are here when it arrives. Now, let me show you the first thing every second of waiting is costing you. Time, but not the way you think. We talk about time like it is flat, like every hour is the same as the last. Every day interchangeable, a calendar you move through in one direction, and all of it equally available. And for most of our ordinary days, that is mostly true. Regular clock time, the kind that just keeps moving regardless of what we do inside of it. But there is another kind of time. The ancient word for it is kairos, not clock time, appointed time. The kind of moment where ordinary life suddenly intersects with something that was arranged at a much higher level, where everything that has been building in the background, quietly and invisibly, for an entire long season, becomes visible and available all at once. A door that did not exist yesterday, fully open today. Kairos moments are not scheduled. They are not earned through preparation, and they are not announced in advance. They simply arrive, open and available, and then they pass. Think about Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness, and those 40 years were not wasted. Every single one of them was forming something in him that the palace never could have. Patience that princes do not get to develop. Humility that comes only from reduction. The ability to survive in a place where survival is not guaranteed. And the quiet knowledge that the story was always much larger than himself. 40 years of becoming the kind of person a burning bush could actually speak to. But here is what I want you to notice about that moment. When the fire appeared and the voice spoke and the call went out, Moses did not receive 40 more years to consider it. He received the moment. The Kairos window was open, right there in front of him, And inside that window, he had to choose. The ones in every great story who hesitated at their kairos moment. We do not know their names. Not because God abandoned them, because the window of that particular appointment moved on, and the story continued without them. Chosen one, this is not a threat. It is a pattern. One of the most consistent patterns across every tradition and every story of transformation ever told. And the reason I am naming it is because I believe, with genuine certainty, that you are already in your kairos window right now. Not eventually, now. And the signs are already in you, because something has been shifting lately, hasn't it? The dreams have become more vivid, the kind you wake from carrying something that lingers through the whole day. The things that used to hold your attention no longer hold it the same way, and it is not because something is wrong, it is because you are becoming too large for where you currently are. The old explanations for staying still feel different now, hollow in a way they never quite felt before, like reading lines from a script that stopped fitting the person speaking them. The restlessness has been increasing, not decreasing, even when your external circumstances have not changed. And there are moments, usually the quiet ones, in the stillness before sleep or the drive when no music is playing, when the question rises without warning, what exactly am I waiting for? That is not anxiety, chosen one. That is your kairos window telling you it is open, and the cost of every second you spend standing in that opening without stepping through is not dramatic. It does not arrive all at once. It is quiet, the certainty growing slightly softer, the fire getting a little less bright, the call becoming slightly easier to explain away. Not because the call was ever withdrawn, because the one being called is slowly, almost imperceptibly, training themselves not to hear it. The ancient teachers called this the drift, and it is the most dangerous thing that can happen to a chosen life. Not an attack from outside, not a sudden failure, but a slow accumulation of small delays until the distance between where you are and where you were called to be becomes so familiar you start calling it home. That is the first cost. Every second of waiting costs you a piece of the clarity that is trying to form into certainty. If that were the only cost, it would be reason enough to move. But there is a second layer, a layer most people never get shown, one that lives not in the spirit, but in the biology, inside the brain itself. And when you see it, the drift will stop being a mystery. Stay with me. What I am about to share with you comes from decades of neuroscience research, and I want you to hold it right next to everything you already know spiritually, because they are describing the same reality from two completely different directions. There is a specific brainwave frequency called gamma, not the alpha that comes with relaxation, not the beta of ordinary waking focus. Gamma, the highest frequency the human brain produces. And, for a long time, scientists were not entirely sure what it was for. Then the research came in from MIT, from Harvard, from Stanford and Princeton, and Berkeley and Columbia, and what it revealed was unlike anything they had predicted. Gamma is the frequency of genius, of creative flow, of the moment when the right answer arrives, not from thinking but from somewhere deeper than thinking, of the feeling when everything is aligned, the body and the mind and the spirit, and action feels not forced but effortless and natural and inevitable, like water simply finding its level. Athletes call it the zone, creators call it the peak state. The mystics were describing it long before neuroscience had language for it. And here is what the research discovered about how we begin. Children under the age of 7 operate in gamma almost continuously. This is why a young child absorbs 3 languages simultaneously without effort, why their imagination has no ceiling, why the word impossible has not yet entered their vocabulary as a personal limitation. They are living in the frequency that the Creator wired into the human brain from the very beginning. The researchers named what happens after that the decline effect. Slowly, through years of schooling that rewards compliance over creativity, through the accumulated weight of comparison and disappointment, and the many quiet messages about what is realistic and what is not, the gamma frequency begins to dim, not disappear, go dormant, go quiet. And by the time most of us reach adulthood, the most powerful frequency the brain can produce is sitting unused in the background while we navigate everything from a slower, more cautious, more anxious pattern. Now hear how directly this connects to where you are today. Every day you remain in the waiting position. Every day the voice of fear or perfectionism or I am not quite ready keeps you from taking the step you already know you are being called to take. Your nervous system is doing something very specific. It is rehearsing. It is practicing the neural pattern of inaction. And the more you practice any pattern, the more the brain files it under. This is what we do here. This is who we are. And the gamma frequency, the God-given brainwave of flow and genius and decisive aligned living, grows a little quieter with each rehearsal. Think of a GPS. Every time it reroutes, the journey gets longer. Every time it recalculates from a position further back, the arrival time increases. Reroute enough times over enough seasons, and the original destination requires a completely different route than the one that existed when you first set out. Not permanently gone, but farther now than it ever needed to be. That is what extended waiting does to the brain. Not punishment, mechanics. Now there is something I want to share with you here, not as an obligation, not as a pitch, as something genuinely worth knowing, given exactly what we just covered. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years of his career studying brain entrainment technology, specifically how to use carefully layered sound frequencies to guide the brain back into the gamma state. His work draws on research from Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, and beyond. And what he developed is called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track. That is the entire thing. 7 minutes through headphones. What it does, using a specific frequency architecture that the brain naturally begins to synchronize with, is guide the gamma wave back into an active pattern, not through years of meditation practice, not through biofeedback therapy sessions that run $300 per hour, or the home equipment versions that cost $7,000 or more. 7 minutes of listening. The original price for this technology is $49. That is less than a single therapy session. But Dr. Lake made a specific decision to make it available at $39 for people receiving this particular message, because his intention from the beginning was to reach the people who genuinely need this, not only those with existing resources. For that $39, you also receive 4 bonuses at no added cost. A brain entrainment track designed to support children's focus and confidence. The original book that inspired the film, The Secret. A guided visualization covering money and love and health and peace. And a 5-habit reference guide worth printing and keeping somewhere visible. Everything comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. No time limit on use before you can claim it. No explanation required. You receive every dollar back if you feel no difference. I also want to give you an important heads up. There are counterfeit versions of this product appearing online. Sites using the name without the actual entrainment technology embedded in the audio. The only way to ensure you receive the original with the real frequency technology, all 4 bonuses, and the full guarantee is through the link in the description and the pinned comment of this message. Not Amazon, not anywhere else it appears, that link alone. For those who feel called to it, it is there waiting. For everyone else, stay with me, because the neuroscience is pointing somewhere that science alone cannot fully account for. And the third cost, the deepest one, has nothing to do with time or neurons. It has to do with who you are actively becoming every single day. And once you see it clearly, nothing about your relationship to waiting will ever be the same. Chosen one. Identity is not fixed. That is either the most freeing or the most unsettling thing I could say to you right now, depending on where you are standing. We tend to treat identity as something we already have, a settled fact, a thing already formed that we carry around like a name tag. But that is not how it works. Identity is not something you possess. It is something you are doing every single day, with every choice, every forward movement, and every decision to remain still. You are always and actively becoming someone. The only question that matters is which version. Think about Joseph for a moment. His brothers threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery, and from there his life moved through a prison cell, through years of being unseen and overlooked and forgotten by the very people he had helped along the way. And none of those years were empty. Every one of them was forming something. The capacity to govern without losing himself. The ability to read a moment with clarity when it finally arrived. The kind of character that does not come undone when everything is suddenly restored all at once. Genuine formation was happening in the dark. Real things were being built where no one could see. But here is what I want you to notice about Joseph's moment. When Pharaoh summoned him, when the call finally came from the highest place available to him in that world, Joseph did not ask for more time to prepare. He did not say, "Let me make sure I am ready. Let me review what I know. Let me process the gap between where I have been and where I am now being asked to go." He moved immediately. Because the formation was complete, the season of preparation had finished its work, and the Kairos window was standing open. The question for you today is not whether you have been formed. You have, deeply and genuinely. The question is whether the formation has been used. Because here is the truth that lives underneath everything we have talked about. The truth about what every single day of waiting is costing you at the most fundamental level. You are not just losing time. You are not just losing neurological momentum. You are actively, daily, continuously becoming someone. And right now, the someone you are becoming is the person who stays at the threshold, the person who almost, the person who knows the call, honors it with acknowledgement and feeling, but does not yet honor it with movement. And the longer you inhabit that person, the more naturally it fits, the more it begins to feel like simply who you are. There are 4 identities living inside you right now that are waiting for activation. Not future versions of you, not aspirations, not things you are working toward. Present realities being held dormant by the waiting position you are currently holding. The first is the pioneer. The pioneer goes first, so that everyone watching can see the path is real. There are people in your life, people you may not even be fully aware of, who are standing still because you are standing still, not to criticize you, waiting for you to move. Because when the pioneer in you takes the step they have been afraid to take, it dismantles the lie that says it cannot be done. Your movement gives them permission they cannot give themselves. The second is the spiritual warrior. The warrior holds ground when everything around them is in motion, when the outcome is unclear and the pressure is high, and every reasonable voice is recommending retreat. The warrior stays present, stays rooted, does not collapse under the weight of uncertainty. This is not aggression or force. It is a steadiness that other people can feel and rest inside of. The third is the voice. The voice speaks what other people are carrying without language for it. You have done this before. You have said something and watched someone's eyes change because they had been holding that exact thought without words. That is not coincidence, and it is not small. That is a gift that only works when it is used, and that goes underground when the one who carries it stays quiet too long. The fourth is the deliverer. The deliverer creates freedom and forward movement in places where there was none, not through force or loud declaration, through presence, through decision, through the refusal to accept that the current configuration is the final one. Deliverance happens when someone decides that what is does not have to be what remains. These are not roles you apply for, and they are not things you earn. They already belong to you. But they require activation, and activation requires movement. Let me name something gently here, because I think you already feel it. There is a version of you that has grown quite comfortable in the identity of almost, not quite through, not quite arrived. The person perpetually on the edge of breakthrough, rather than inside of it. And there is a kind of safety in that position. You cannot fully fail if you never fully commit. The wound underneath the waiting usually sounds like, the last time I moved fully towards something, something went wrong. And the body learned from that. The nervous system filed it carefully. And it has been quietly making the case for stillness ever since. That wound is real, and it deserves to be honored. But it does not deserve to run your life. Because the pioneer and the warrior and the voice and the deliverer waiting inside you, they do not belong to a version of you that has everything figured out. They belong to the one who moves before they feel entirely ready, who trusts before they feel entirely certain, who steps through while the door is still open. Stay with me. Because what comes next reframes everything you have just heard. At the level of the root. Here is what I need you to hear, chosen one. This is the truth underneath all of it. You are not waiting. You are choosing. Every single day you remain in the position of not yet. You are making an active decision. Not a passive one, not a neutral one, a vote. A daily, ongoing, accumulated vote for the identity of the person who stays at the threshold rather than crossing it. Waiting has a face, and that face looks exactly like a choice you are already making, whether or not you recognize it as one. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is not condemnation, and I need you to hear it that way. God is not standing on the other side of this truth, holding your delays against you. He sees every reason you have ever had for staying still. He sees the fear that was real, the wound that deserved protection, the season of stillness that genuinely needed to be walked through before this one could begin. He sees all of it, and none of it is held against you. But he is also saying something with unmistakable clarity today. The waiting that protected you has completed its purpose. What is being asked of you now, what the Kairos window is asking, what the gamma frequency is asking, what the pioneer and the warrior and the voice and the deliverer inside you are asking, is not more preparation. It is one decision. This is the pattern across every story of transformation that has ever been told. Moses did not receive perfect clarity before the burning bush. He received the burning bush as his clarity. Joseph did not feel fully healed from his brother's betrayal before he stood before Pharaoh. He stood before Pharaoh as his healing. The formation you have walked through was not preparation for the moment. It was the first part of the moment. And this is the second part. You have not been waiting for the right moment, chosen one. The right moment has been waiting for you to recognize it. Let that settle in wherever it needs to land in you. You have not been waiting for the right moment. The right moment has been waiting for you to recognize it. And now I want to give you something practical to carry out of this. Not 10 steps and not a program. 3 things, simple and specific, and available to you right now, wherever you are. The first is this. The next time fear rises to tell you that you are not ready, and it will, possibly even before this message ends, do not argue with it, and do not try to push it down. Do this instead. Name it. You can do this silently, right where you are. Say, I see you. I know what you are trying to do. You are trying to keep me safe, and I am moving anyway. This is not bravado. This is the only fear processing that actually works. Not suppression, not battle, but acknowledgement, followed by decision. The brain responds to this differently than it responds to either fighting fear or giving in to it. Over time it learns, this is a person who feels fear and moves, and that becomes the pattern. The second is identity declaration. Beginning today, speak 3 things about yourself that are already true right now, not things you hope to become someday. Say, I am a pioneer. I go first so others can follow. I am a spiritual warrior. I hold ground. I am the voice. I speak what others feel but cannot say. Say these not as affirmations you are trying to convince yourself of. Say them as recognitions, as the act of receiving what has already been given to you and already exists inside you. The third is one decision, not all of the decisions. 1. What is the smallest, most specific, most concrete, forward movement that represents a yes to what you already know you are called toward? Not the whole journey, not the fully formed plan. One step. Identify it and then do it before today is over. Because one step breaks the neural pattern of inaction. One step begins to recalibrate the GPS. One movement of the pioneer inside you gives everyone watching silent permission to believe that movement is possible. You do not need to feel ready for this, chosen one. You need to feel called, and you already do. You have for a while. Let me stand with you now in this moment before you go, because what you have walked through in this message deserves to be sealed, not just understood. Let me do that with you. Whatever brought you to this threshold, every season of waiting, every moment of almost every day of carrying the call without yet acting on it, we bring gratitude for all of it. Not in spite of the hard parts, for them, because every piece of it was forming the person who is now standing here. Thank you for the wilderness that built what no easier season ever could have. Thank you for the protection of the waiting season and its purpose. Thank you for never pulling back the call, even when it grew quiet between us. Thank you for this moment, this specific one, right here. And now we let ourselves be seen. You see the weight of the years when the fire felt far. You see the moments of almost, the edges of breakthrough where something pulled back before the crossing. You see the fear that has been running quietly underneath, doing its best to keep something precious safe from exposure. You see it all, and none of it is hidden, and none of it is shameful, and none of it has changed what has been placed in this person. You are fully seen, chosen one, fully known, and fully chosen still. Now we release. We release the story of almost but not quite. Release. We release the identity of the person who waits at every threshold. Release. We release the old ceiling, the invisible limit that said this far and no further. Release. We release the wound that taught us stillness was safer than forward motion. Release. We release the loyalty to the version of ourselves that served its season but has now passed. Release. We release comparison to timelines that were never ours to begin with. Release. We release the belief that readiness must come before the call. Release. It is gone. Every one of those things released from the body and from the mind and from the story we tell about who we are. And now we activate. Pioneer, rise. The path is already prepared, and you are the one who walks it first. Spiritual warrior, rise. The ground you are called to hold is yours, and nothing will move you from it. Voice, rise. What is in you to speak is needed right now, not in some distant future season. Deliverer, rise. The freedom you were created to bring into this world is already in motion. We activate the God-given gamma frequency, the brainwave of genius and flow and clear, aligned action. In this mind, in this body, in this life. We activate the appointments already arranged, the connections already positioned, the provision already moving in the direction of this calling. We activate the step that has been waiting, and the courage that was always present underneath the fear. We cover this activation. We guard the first steps from being seen before they are ready to be seen. We protect what is rising from the voices, internal and external, that will argue for retreat. What has been activated here today, let nothing pull it back into dormancy. And now we declare it. I am chosen, not someday, already, completely. I am a pioneer. I go first so others can see that it is possible. I am a spiritual warrior. I hold ground. I do not collapse. I am the voice. What is in me to say is needed in this world. I am a deliverer. I create freedom where there was none before. I am activated. I am aligned. I am moving. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it. In Jesus' name, Amen. Take one breath. Let it settle inside you. Chosen one, before you close this, leave one word in the comments. The word is activated, not for me, for yourself, as a declaration, as the first act of the pioneer in you saying, I was here, I heard, and I am moving. If you know someone specific, who is standing at their own threshold right now and needs to hear that waiting is not neutral, share this with them today, not tomorrow, today. And for those who felt called to explore the genius song, the 7-minute brain entrainment tool Dr. Robert Lake developed to support the gamma reactivation we talked about. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Make sure you get the original with the real technology inside it. Go, chosen one. The right moment has been waiting, and you just recognized it.